Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it over Saul's head. The Christ, the anointed king. He kissed Saul and said, I am doing this because the Lord has appointed you to be ruler over Israel, his special possession. You will meet a band of prophets coming down from the place of worship. They will be playing a harp, a tambourine, and a lyre, and they will be prophesying. At that time, the Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them. You will be changed into a different person. It's interesting that some modern churches think, oh no, we better not have music in church because that will replace the work of the Spirit. But we can sit before meetings start and read hymns to fire us up, get us engaged. Don't have music, but do have words. And it's quite difficult once you've got a spectrum of that the Lord can move and fire people up using aesthetic things. It's then hard to say, well, it can't be one form of art, but it can be another. Ideally, you want like truth to be there. Well, always you want truth to be there, but truth doesn't just come in words, does it? There's one other thing I want to say on the Spirit, because I know some people are asking it. I think it's quite clear in the Bible that all the way through both testaments, in order to become part of the family of God, to be regenerate inside and saved and changed and redeemed and justified and all that stuff, you need the Spirit of God dwelling in you. So I don't want people in the Bible out to think, oh, the Spirit dwelling in people is just a New Testament thing. And a prime example of that is, I think, Saul and David, because we all know Saul at the end sort of botches it and probably is in hell, probably. But David is in heaven. We know that. But actually, David did probably tons more worse stuff in his life than Saul did. But yet, David is kept and Saul is not. And it's just clear things like that, where the indwelling, holding power, the regenerating work, the washing of the Spirit is quite clear in complete wretches like even David. It's the only explanation how some are kept and some aren't. Some have the Spirit of God dwelling in him. All that to say, then on top of that, the Spirit comes on people and equips them for certain works like kingship, priesthood, craft making, tabernacle construction, art, dancing, tambourines. So there's quite a deep theological study in that, and that was a nutshell of it. But it's a particular thing of mine I think it's just clearly taught that the indwelling work of the Spirit is not a privilege of the New Testament church alone. Otherwise, you've got Old Testament church, our ancient church, who somehow made it to heaven without the indwelling, regenerating, and keeping work of the Holy Spirit, which is a different gospel, because you can't get to know Jesus without the work of the Spirit, as the tabernacle clearly shows with the light shining on the bread. One more thing, because it is really important, the work of the Spirit. You get this like Psalms like 51, where David is crying out, please don't take your Spirit from me. It's not like he's saying, oh no, I might lose the Spirit inside me now. We know that the Lord keeps his church. Once he's got them, he keeps them. None shall pluck us from his hand. So he's not worried about like that slipping out of the hands of God. He's basically praying there what every church should be praying, and a lot do in their weekly prayer meetings. Lord, fill us with your Spirit, even more spiritual power. Don't let it go. Don't go from us. Do you see the difference? We're not saying, oh no, our salvation is quickly going to be lost. And neither were they praying that in the Old Testament when they're saying things like, take not thy Spirit from us. It's the same like revive us type prayers that's happening there. All right, I will shut up now. I'm just going to read now solidly for the next 10 minutes, I promise. Well, because you said that, there is just one more thing, because it's massively linked also to your style of worship in church. Because quite a few churches who have little to no musical assistance argue it that there was tons of music in the Old Testament, in the temple worship and timbrels and choirs and drums and all that stuff, because there was no indwelling work of the Spirit. So there was this other sort of stuff in his place. But now in the New Testament, we have the Word, and all glories on the Word. So we don't need that other stuff to sort of fire our spirits up. We've got post-Pentecostal work of the Spirit, and basically large amounts of the worship wars hang on the pneumatological arguments, the work of the Spirit, rooted, I think, in a bad understanding of regeneration in the Old Testament. You can have both, and the ancient church often did. Grand music, glorifying grand truth. Right, I promise that's it. I promise now.